Hi, I'm Moses Gumadi. If you have landed upon this page, it is very likely that you're a business owner, or perhaps you are at an important position within a business, or maybe you are a consultant trying to improve a business. And perhaps your business, right, is producing a lot lesser output than it should. Or maybe that you have a lot of delivery issues, or maybe you have a lot of working capital stuck within the business, which is actually jeopardizing the growth of the business. And perhaps you've tried a lot of improvements, a lot of improvement projects and initiatives that haven't worked. Whatever the reason might be, or if any of these are not the reasons, still I've got something solid here. If you can stay on and watch for the next few minutes, I think that'll be really helpful for you and for your business. Okay, why do many people struggle to get the results? Most of the times it's because they work with the wrong objective and not focusing on the long-term value. Sometimes some people have too many little initiatives, too much of action, and no big impact projects that are very highly focused to the specific improvement that you want to achieve. Right? And sometimes initiatives are not aligned with the strategic positioning, and some organizations, some business don't have a strategic positioning. And some people try to think that, what worked for Toyota works for us, or what worked for the other company works for us, because they think all of them are the same. They are not, right? And focusing on cost cutting and getting immediate improvements or immediate profit this year or in the next 6 months will sometimes jeopardize your company in the long run. Even in the next 2 years or 3 years, it'll jeopardize, right? So that's one reason why people struggle to get results, not accounting for variability. There is variability throughout your business, and if your plans are based on averages, then your plan will work only 50% of the time, because the other 50% is below average. And finally, of course, failing to model the improvement before implementing. If you want to make a change in X and Y and Z, how much difference will it make? You need to know that at least some ballpark figure you should be able to project. If you don't know that, or if you do not know how to arrive at that, how do you know if your investment is worth it? These are the reasons. It could be not only necessarily financial returns, it could be customer improvements, it could be the improvement in the product, it could be in the improvement in the delivery times. Of whatever you're trying to improve, you need to have a sense of how much improvement are you going to expect. And in order to make that, you should model it. How will you do it? To address all these questions and many more, I've created this course. There's a new course called the Science of Lean Operations. It has 5 modules, and it is a structured and a scientific approach to increase the throughput or output of your operations, to reduce the working capital and the cost within your business operations, shorten the lead times, and provide consistent delivery to the customers. And finally, of course, not to forget, maximize the return on the invested capital. Everything within this course is aligned to increase the return on the invested capital, right? So why am I talking about science here? Right? The reason is this, simply that, let's take this example. If you're on a tower trying to throw a projectile and that goes like this, as shown here in this figure, that's the path of the projectile. You want to maximize the range. Well, let's call it range. That's the distance that it travels. You want to maximize that. And this range depends on the angle at which you're throwing and the velocity with which you're throwing, and of course the height from which you are throwing. That can be seen here. For example, if you change your velocity, the range changes, as you can see here. If you change the height, the range changes, as in here. And the behavior is obviously different. The velocity drives range differently than how the height drives the range. And if you change the angle, it is totally different. There is a maximum point for the angle. That means if you keep on increasing the angle at one point, the range starts going back or shortening. As you can see, 45 degrees has the maximum here in this particular case. And is 45 degrees the maximum always? Not necessarily. It depends on the height. As you can see here, what is the maximum maximum range angle? It depends on the height, and that's what you've got here on this particular screen. And so the point really is, do we know the cause and effect in our business operations? Right? That's what I want to address in this course. Okay, here in this particular example, you have this effect, which is a range. You have the causes. Some causes are control variables. We can control them and change them, and the others are beyond our control, and we need to be able to live with them while controlling the ones that we've got, and see whether or not we can make that effect that we want to get in our business. Okay, that's what we want to achieve in this course. So the question really is, can we determine the behavior of the system in your production system? If your business is about making products, it could be pizza, or it could be cakes, or it could be high-end electronic products. It doesn't matter what you're making. Or maybe you have a service business, right? In any case, can we determine the behavior of how your business will respond to the changes that you want to make within it? Okay, right. So these are the two key questions. What laws govern the relationship between the desired outcomes and the internal and the external parameters of your business operations? And once you know these laws, how can we apply these laws to maximize the value delivered by the business operations? Okay, these are the two critical questions that we would address in the entire course, and a lot of learning material here. So, I will work on introducing something like this. So this is a causal, framework that actually connects the outcomes that you want to achieve to the operational parameters within your business, and also the financials. Everything is connected, as you can see, and obviously you need to know the relationship between each of those connections as well. So what gives me the ability to be able to teach you guys this one? So these are my credentials. Okay, I have been a management consultant for quite a long time, and you see all of my clients here, some of my clients, in fact, not all, obviously there are some of my clients, both big and small businesses, and a long experience in corporate, and have a huge exposure to Lean and Six Sigma, theory of constraints, and all other business improvement methods. And I don't stick to one single thing. We try to extract the best out of it and apply in the context for a particular business, right? The business, your own business. I also have a highly scientific background in nuclear technology, where I worked as a scientist and an engineer to analyze nuclear reactors early in my career. Also, I'm the creator of the Smart Lean Thinking framework. And of course, this course is actually developed using not only my own experience, but also the experience of a lot of other people in the form of books and articles and research papers that are available in this particular area. Okay, so let's start with the overview of the course, right? For the 5 modules, and the first module is about the goal of operations. Within the first module, I have various lessons. Each module has various lessons. I'll take you through what is there within the course. So first lesson is about the stakeholders of the operations, right? Because you need to generate value to all the stakeholders. And predominantly the key stakeholders. Customers are your key stakeholders. So we have customer value and operations strategy, which will help you to create the competitive advantage and deliver the customer value more than your competitors could deliver. So we'll address that in the second lesson. And thirdly, we have how do you maximize the shareholder value? Right? Not just profit, long-term shareholder value. We'll use quantitative methods to calculate that. Simple, without really working on a lot of spreadsheets. The simple methods of estimating roughly how do you estimate the value of your business, and how can you work about improving it, right? Okay, and the second module is about the structure of the lean operations. Depending on how have you structured your business, its performance will vary, right? And we will talk about the structure of your operations. We'll also talk about how to model your business to be able to predict the outcomes that your business operations will produce, right? How do you do that? Sometimes you can just simply hand calculate, or perhaps in complex operations, you may have to use simulations or some of the tools that I'm trying to show. So I will cover all these things here. Also, how do you link your operations to the financials? And that's a very key. And one of the tools that we use here is known as the ROIC tree, where operational parameters are linked back to the ROIC, return on the invested capital, via the financials, including revenue, cost, working capital, inventory, and all the rest of them. Okay. And the third module, of course, is about the laws of lean operations. Little's law is the key, the basic one. But we will also talk about the corrupting influence of variability. What is variability? How does it affect your operations? And we'll talk about operating curves, which will help you to increase your throughput while reducing your work in progress, your inventory, reducing your working capital, and cutting down your cycle times. This is the key tool that we will use. You shouldn't miss this if you really want to get results. We'll also talk about the batching operations, why sometimes batching is good, and when do you really want one-piece flow. Is the one-piece flow is the best always? As some people think, not always, but in some cases. And so we'll talk about all those things. How do you improve the throughput? How do you improve the flow time? So this is the fourth module. We're talking about science of improvement. So what are the various strategies that are there to improve throughput? What are the strategies to improve the flow time within your operations? And how do you buffer the variability? I said variability is a corrupting influence on the operations. So you need to buffer it. So if there's a high level of variability, then you need to make it smaller. So by using buffers, and there are three kinds of buffers: inventory buffer, capacity buffer, and time buffer. Like how you put, some people keep a bit of a stock in order to handle the variation in demand. So that's a buffer. So we'll talk about buffers and how to use them, in what circumstances to use them, and how will they help. They will cost money, but how do you balance that investment that you put in the buffers versus the returns that it produces? Okay. And we'll also talk about inventory management. I will introduce the concept of inventory efficiency frontier. How do you balance your ability to deliver the goods in time while minimizing the amount of inventory? Okay, so these two needs to be balanced, and it needs to be balanced efficiently. And I will introduce this concept of combined efficiency frontier, how to generate that. We'll talk about a lot of inventory models, solid stuff in that particular lesson. Okay, and finally, once you've improved your business, you need to ensure that stays on and continues. So how do you control your operations? We'll introduce the pull systems, Kanban, Convip, and drum buffer rope, and other methods to keep your work in progress constant, so that your deliveries are consistent. Okay. And sometimes you need to flex your business up or down depending on additional demand coming in, or maybe unavailability of the resources, or machine breakdown. Whatever may be the reason, sometimes you have to flex your business either up or down. And when you do that, your profitability will suffer. So how do you ensure that you minimize that loss of profitability whilst flexing your operations is the question we will address in this lesson. Okay, and finally, the technology is improving and the world is changing. People are using Internet of Things and Industry 4.0. They're using digital twin and all the rest of it. And I will introduce this concept known as smart lean operations, where to put the sensors, how to use the simulation tools, how do you gather all this information, what sort of analytics may have to be used, and how do you use all these things to gain that return on the invested capital for your operations. We'll talk about that. So this is a 5-module course, as I have said, and a lot of good stuff, material has been used in addition to my own personal assignments and my client work with a lot of other people. So here is the 5-module course. You can use a structured approach and a scientific approach to increase the throughput of your operations, reduce the working capital and cost, shorten the lead times, provide consistent delivery, and of course maximize the return on the invested capital.